The Tunnel to Towers Foundation honors the sacrifices of America's heroes. Heroes like U.S. Army Specialist Andy Keith Kingsley. Andy was part of the 82nd Airborne Division. He received various awards and decorations, including a Purple Heart. While deployed, Andy was catastrophically injured in combat. Andy and his family received a mortgage-free smart home from Tunnel to Towers. But many more heroes, like Andy, need your support. Donate $11 a month and amplify your impact by donating your car or land. Go to T2T.org.
He's at war with woke.
Joe Concha
thinks liberals are a joke.
Joe Concha.
This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition, sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Here's Joe Concha.
That's right. At my wedding, 2010 at the Jersey Shore, this was a song that my wife and I came out to. As Kevin is currently probably throwing up in a bin somewhere in the studio, I like Coldplay. In fact, I love Coldplay. How does that feel? And why is Coldplay playing, you may be wondering? Because we're going to talk later about the gal that was on the Kiss Cam at a Coldplay concert, and then when they were Gillette Stadium and 70,000 people there, they decide to duck out of the camera, which then made the clip go viral because Chris Martin, who's the lead singer, acknowledged it and basically destroyed 2 marriages and 2 families. Anyway, she's out talking to Oprah now, and what she had to say about her actions is really just quite incredible. But now she'll be the next big star. Guaranteed she'll have a show on MSNBC in 5 minutes. Anyway, this is Joe Concha. This is Concha at Night. And some fireworks on Capitol Hill. I mean, there's fireworks every day on Capitol Hill with these hearings. But this felt genuine, I mean, let me break it down for you. So Markwayne Mullin, Senator Oklahoma, he's going to take over, if he's confirmed, of course, Kristi Noem's spot as DHS secretary. And Markwayne Mullin is a favorite of President Trump. He's excellent in interviews. He's a former MMA guy. He's like a Tom Homan type, but with a beard and younger. All right, so that's what you want in this position. But at one point, Markwayne Mullin said, after Rand Paul was, if you remember this a couple of years ago, Rand Paul is mowing his lawn. His neighbor jumps him from behind and basically beats him to a pulp. Like total cheap shot from behind. And Rand Paul, not the biggest guy in the world, right? And I'm not mocking it in any way, shape, or form, but he basically had a lung punctured. He was in the hospital for 6 weeks, had to go through multiple surgeries, like just really, really scary stuff. All right. And we don't condone this in any way, shape, or form, violence. I don't care whether you like Rand Paul, don't like Rand Paul. Whether it happens to anybody. That's not the way you solve an argument, especially when it's not going to be a fair fight, as it wasn't in this case. And Mullin at the time said that he understood why Rand Paul was attacked because of all of his opposition to Republicans and Trump on XYZ. And that is true. Rand Paul is the Senate version of Thomas Massie, where he just votes against everything that Trump wants. He's absolutely an isolationist. That's certainly for sure. So he's against the Iran war. Then again, he's always been consistent on that. So love him or hate him, the guy seems to be very consistent in terms of the way he votes and what he believes in. All right. Now, all that said, Markwayne Mullin has to be confirmed by the Senate with a majority vote, meaning that there are hearings. That's what happens in these situations. And Rand Paul, as a Republican, made this very personal in a hurry. This is cut number 7. Go.
I was a freaking snake. You told the media that I was a freaking snake, and that you completely understood why I had been assaulted. I was shocked that you would justify and celebrate this violent assault that caused me so much pain and my family so much pain. I just wonder if someone who applauds violence against their political opponents is the right person to lead an agency that has struggled to accept limits to the proper use of force.
All right, so basically that's Paul talking to Mullin, saying that, all right, this is what you said about me. You called me a snake. You said you were happy that I got beat up. Should you be running this department? Now, this was many years ago. Now, Markwayne Mullin obviously gets a chance to respond, and here's what he had to say about Paul's comments. Cut number 8, go.
You were in a room. I simply addressed that I said I could understand because of the behavior you were having, that I could understand why the neighbor did what he did. As far as my terms, the snake in the grass, sir, I work around this room to try to fix problems. I've worked with many people in this room. Seems like you fight Republicans more than you work with us. I did address those remarks. I did explain your gimmicks by the amendment you put forth. And as far as me saying that I invoke violence, I don't. I don't think anybody should be hit by surprise. I don't like that. But if I do have something to say, everybody in this room knows I'll come straight to you. I'll say it publicly and I'll say it privately, but I'll never say it behind your back.
All right. So that was the back and forth there. And here's the thing. This is where I have a slight problem with Rand Paul. When he was beaten in his front yard, this was nearly 10 years ago. All right. Now, I understand that he's saying, all right, Mullin's going into a position of power and XYZ, but I don't know, you're going to bring up a comment that somebody made from 9-10 years ago. Is Mullin the best person for the job right now? That should be the only thing on your mind. And this felt very, I don't know, what's the old saying in The Godfather, you know? It's nothing personal. It's just business. And I think in this case, in terms of the business of the country, Markwayne Mullin probably is the best person for this job. But now Rand Paul says that he will vote against Mullin. But then again, John Fetterman, I mean, talk about a breath of fresh air. This guy says he will vote for Mullin. So he offsets Paul, and Republicans have a little bit of a runway anyway in terms of majority. So Mullin will be confirmed. That is the prediction here. Anyway, SAVE Act is obviously a very big deal right now on Capitol Hill as well. And Democrats are just pulling out every effing ridiculous argument you could possibly imagine with a straight face, because I think they know the media won't call them on it the way they should, even though it's not working anyway, even if the media isn't doing their job in this situation, because I've shared it once, I'll share it again. 85% of Americans support having voter ID, including a vast majority of Democrats, blacks, Latinos, independents. This is an issue that almost everybody agrees on. But here's Senator Patty Murray of Washington saying that, you know, it's really going to be hard for students to vote if we pass this bill. Cut number 2, go.
That is not the half of it. Just consider all the people who will face new challenges just to vote for no good reason. If you are a student who just moved to start college, Republicans will make it harder for you to vote. Because if this bill passes, you will need to show a photo ID and proof of citizenship in every single state. But a student ID won't count. Many tribal IDs also won't be enough under the new Republican restrictions.
Holy God. All right. Do you know how to get a student ID? I mean, I've been out of college for a couple of years now, but I'm pretty sure you have to show your actual ID to get a student ID. You can't just walk into the student union or the registrar's office or wherever and say, hey, could you give me an ID? I'm John Smith. How do we know you're John Smith? You just have to trust me on this one. They just don't hand these things out willy-nilly, especially now because there's a lot more security around dorms and whatnot and classrooms than there used to be. Think, you know, what happened up at Brown a couple months ago. So the premise here, I guess, is you're smart enough to get into college, but you're dumb enough not to know how to get a friggin' ID in this country, which is not remotely as hard as Democrats are portraying it to be. But that's the argument. This is another one as well from Jeff Markey. He's the, oh boy, of course he's a senator from another blue state. And actually says the quiet part out loud here again, that if you pass this bill, the people that normally could vote for us can't vote anymore because, I don't know, maybe they're illegal. That's what this sounds like. Cut number 4, go.
This bill is about stopping groups from voting who tend to vote for Democrats. This is, again, about rigging the next election.
Oh, no. This is one of the most perfectly named bills you could possibly imagine. Save America Act. This will save America. Because when he says it's stopping groups from voting, who tend to vote for Democrats. What groups? What groups is it going to stop? Like those who entered the country illegally? Yeah. They are scared to death of this thing. The question is, will it pass? And we could go over and over again as far as the walking filibuster, and John Thune seems to be against that right now. And Republicans do not have the votes in the Senate because you need 60, which means you need several Democrats to come along with you. And even Fetterman at this point is saying that he won't do that because of the way the law is currently written. Anyway, let's go to, I mean, this pretty much says it all. This is Mark Meadows, former chief of staff to President Trump. And this is his why behind why Democrats are fighting the way they are on this when it's such an unpopular issue. But the why makes sense here. Cut number 3, go.
Millions of you have let your voice be heard on the Save America Act, and today at 2 o'clock, a critical vote happens on the Senate floor. Now, the Democrats are going to fight this with all their fiber and being to defeat this bill. Why? Because their political future depends on it. They need illegal aliens in order to help them try to retake power. Yet it's our job to make sure that the Republicans know that their political future depends on it as well. No fake fights, no show votes. They just need to defend these common sense reforms until there's no Democrat left standing. Let's pass this bill. Let's save America.
He's right about that. This changes everything. If you looked at the 2024 election, the only states that Kamala Harris won were ones that had very lax or non-existent voter ID requirements. Look at the map. It's beyond true. It's funny how Georgia straightened up their voter rolls and basically has the SAVE Act in place for their particular state. And suddenly, boy, that vote changed in a hurry. More people voted in Georgia's election since their state voting law passed in 2021 than in the state's history. And then suddenly Donald Trump went from being down or up a lot on election night to maintaining his lead after election night. I'm just saying, this thing is scaring Democrats to death because there's something up here, and it's pretty obvious what that is, and it ain't the sun. Let's go with one more on the SAVE Act, and this is Senator Ted Cruz, of course, talking about how in some cases when you want to do something and you need an ID, in one case right here in New York City, you need 2 IDs to do a certain thing. This is cut number 5. Go.
You need a photo ID to enroll in college. You need a photo ID to open a bank account. You need a photo ID to check into a hotel. And I got to admit, this is my personal favorite. You need a photo ID, actually 2 photo IDs, to shovel snow in New York City.
Yep, that just happened like a month ago. 2 photo IDs. It's impossible to get 1, according to Democrats. Imagine having to get 2. Oh, man. I'm surprised outside of the weather getting warmer, how that snow ever was shoveled by even 1 person, according to Democrats, according to their rules. So let's see where this goes. Meanwhile, before we go to break, I have to talk about this interview that we saw with Kristen Cabot. She was the gal who was in the Kiss Cam video. That was one of the most viral videos of 2025. Just a background here. She is at a concert with her boss. All right. She's the head of human resources at this particular company. And the CEO has her embraced the way you would see 2 16-year-olds embraced at a concert, right? He has his arms wrapped around her from behind, and they're just looking up into the sky, listening to whatever Coldplay was playing at that moment, Gillette Stadium in Foxborough, Massachusetts. And then suddenly the Kiss Cam, they pop up on the screen, obviously horrified by them being there because, well, you know, they're married to other people, and they duck out of the way. And obviously this thing went around the world a billion times. And since then, apparently the families probably aren't doing too well. Anyway, she ran to Oprah to tell her side of the story. And this is just a whole bowl of wrong. Cut number 6, go.
This is what I did not know before the story, and y'all obviously didn't know either, that she was separated from her husband and that her boss was also separated or said he was separated from his wife. Did y'all know that?
No.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Or that her husband was there.
Well,
this is the thing. So you get texted from one of your children.
Yeah, my daughter was like, "This is so fun, great." I was like, and in my mind, I thought, well, is this going to be weird if he sees me with Andy? Like that crossed
or you
my
run
mind.
into him.
Yeah, if I run into him. But then I was like, I'm in Gillette Stadium. There's 55,000 people here. I'm probably not going to run into him.
All right. A couple of things there. If this new couple, all right, was separated from their respective spouses, why would you hide from the camera the way you did? If everything's like, okay, well, I'm on the way out with my husband, I'm on the way out with my wife, why'd you hide the way you did? That's one thing. And then Oprah. Well, your husband was there. Yeah, not exactly sitting next to them. Anyway, later in the interview, she actually says that, well, as an HR person, I go out for drinks with CEOs all the time. Wait, what? No, you don't. That's not part of she goes, that's part of the job description. It kind of isn't. And probably sleeping with them definitely is not part of the job description. Anyway, I don't. This thing, I had to shower 2 times after watching it. This is Joe Concha. This is Concha at Night. Back with so much more, including more Coldplay in just a moment.
This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition.
Joe Concha.
Sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition. Sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Here's Joe Concha.
Welcome back, everybody. It was called Yellow. This is 1999. Wow, you know you're old when this song is 27 years old. Anyway, let's just jump right in here, shall we? Apparently, if you watch CNN, you'll see Marjorie Taylor Greene, who just kind of quit her job a month or two ago as a congresswoman because now she is anti-Trump. And when you're anti-Trump, you have an R next to your name, that automatically gets you on The View quite easily, or CNN, or MS Now. You become a voice of the resistance, as if there is this resistance to Trump at this point. Well, here is an NBC poll shared by Harry Enton of CNN, and this is how Trump is doing among MAGA at this point. It's Saddam Hussein-like. We'll put it that way. Except it's legitimate. Cut number 12, go.
Yeah, you know, sometimes you look at the polling data and there are numbers that just jump off the screen at you, and this is one of those. Because just take a look here. MAGA GOP view of Trump. Approve 100%. If you are a member of MAGA and the GOP, you approve of Donald John Trump. 0% say that they disapprove. You don't have to be a mathematical genius to know you can't go higher than 100%. He is the 1972 Miami Dolphins.
Last time the Dolphins won a Super Bowl, by the way. Go figure. Look, that is insane to me. He has 100% approval among those who say they're MAGA? And yet we hear about this MAGA civil war? Why? Because Marjorie Taylor Greene and Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens say there is? No. I've never seen 100 for any politician on anything, but here we are. Anyway, this is Concha at Night. Back with so much more. 100% guaranteed in just a moment.
This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition. Sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Here's Joe Concha.
Yes. Coldplay Wednesday here on Concha at Night. There's a lot more songs that have a little more pep to them, but still, good summer band. The only way I can put it. You're out looking at an ocean or a bay somewhere. This is some nice stuff to listen to. All right, enough about Coldplay. Let's go to Brandon Gill, who is a congressman from Texas, and this guy always brings it during hearings. This is a future star, I can guarantee you that. And here he had on Thomas Sands, I should say. He is basically heads up an organization that represents those in the country here illegally to obviously argue for their rights as Americans or people who are in the country. No, actually, you broke into the country. You therefore have no rights. It's just common sense. And America has the most liberal immigration policies, even under Trump, probably in the world. No one else allows anybody in. Now, Trump isn't allowing anybody in. right? So I shouldn't have said Trump has liberal policies. Don't get me wrong on that. But still, like in terms of our legal immigration policies, extremely open-armed. We'll put it that way, and it's been that way for centuries. But most other countries, I'm not talking about either, Sweden or France or Britain or Ireland for that matter. But try walking into Russia and see how that goes, or North Korea. Want to try to break into that country and then start demanding things? Anyway, before I go off on a tangent, here's Brandon Gill with Mr. Sands on, hey, should illegals get rehabilitation? In other words, somebody murders somebody, do they deserve taxpayer money to pay for their rehabilitation? And this back and forth is truly astounding. Cut number 18, go.
Do you believe that American tax dollars should be used to rehabilitate criminal and illegal aliens within our own borders?
I believe it's in our own interest to rehabilitate anybody who commits a crime,
including criminal and illegal aliens.
If it happens within our borders, it's to the benefit of all of us to rehabilitate them. Rehabilitation of those who are convicted of criminals is not for their own benefit. It's for the benefit of society.
How many criminal and illegal aliens should we rehabilitate?
Again, anyone who commits a crime and is convicted of a crime should be rehabilitated
there's no
for the
limit.
Benefit of the entire
So an illegal alien
society.
comes into our country, murders or rapes somebody, we ought to rehabilitate them, is your view. And there's no limit to the number of illegal alien criminals we should rehabilitate. Is that your testimony?
Apparently it is, yes. And again, it's not our job to rehabilitate them. We're talking hundreds of thousands of people, right? Even more probably when you count gotaways and so on. Of people who have committed crimes, people that need rehabilitation, whether that be criminal, whether that be for drugs, whatever. That's not on our dime. So you don't rehab them, you deport them. It's really that simple. But that guy just said the quiet part again out loud and seemed to be quite the conviction behind it. And that's how Democrats feel. The ones that won't say that publicly, if they get back into power, you're going to just go right back to the Biden years all over again. And not because they have some sort of sympathy or they're better people, because they eventually want to give them amnesty. And once you give them amnesty, then they can vote, they get driver's license. We already saw it in places like Minnesota and California, free health care, all that stuff. And again, the whole ball game is power, and power by votes of bringing in people, shipping them in, literally importing them, so you could win tight races in certain states. And that's the whole goal. But when Democrats put themselves up on a higher moral plane, that we're just more accepting of those who come here from countries where they just don't have it as good, it has nothing to do with being a better person. It has everything to do with the P word aforementioned. Anyway, let's go to cut 20, shall we? Because this is Joe Rogan spelling it out here. The hypocrisy of Democrats, who, again, we've been hearing now for years that they are the only party that can save democracy. That Trump is an authoritarian, he's a fascist, he is somebody who is destroying the Constitution and therefore democracy. And they can only save democracy. But Rogan brings up a very, very good point as far as the democratic process under Democrats in the past 14 years. This is cut number 20. Go.
The Democrats saying anything's a threat to democracy is wild when they haven't had a primary since 2012.
That's true.
That's wild.
Yeah.
That's really wild. I mean, they kicked Bernie out. They made sure RFK Jr. wasn't in. And then when it came time for Kamala to run, no primary at all. They just put her in position.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah, they didn't know what else to do. And
wild and like Soviet-like, right? In 2024, since I covered that campaign for my book, The Greatest Comeback Ever, Inside Trump's Big Beautiful Campaign, Unburdened by What Has Been, New York Times bestseller, still available on Amazon and wherever you buy books. That was the part that was the most incredible part of the campaign. There were many incredible parts. That Joe Biden was cast aside by George Clooney, basically, and by his own party, Pelosi, Obama, Schumer. And then Kamala was just installed. They had time. That was July 21st when Biden dropped out. You could have had a primary for about a 2-month, a lightning one, I think they were calling it, and just let the people decide. Democratic voters. That wouldn't have been hard to put together. But nope. The money was with Kamala. It was non-transferable. In other words, any donations that went to the Biden-Harris campaign couldn't suddenly be transferred to, Gavin Newsom. So they just put her in there and then hope that, okay, again, going with the identity politics, black woman, obviously first female president, first woman of color that could be president, and the campaign of joy. You remember that. Then she picked Goofy Tim Walz as her running mate and showed that she had absolutely no stance on any major issue whatsoever, except what she was told to say. And then when she did live interviews, or any interviews for that matter, with anybody halfway decent, she became a human Chernobyl. And now we have Donald Trump as the 47th president and the most transformative president, the most impactful president, easily the hardest working president that we have ever seen. Anyway, Adam Carolla compares here the difference between, say, a Trump presidency, which we are living for the second time, and what a Kamala presidency would have looked like. And as usual, Adam does not hold back. Cut number 17, go.
Kamala Harris is a dunce who's a word salad shooter who I don't know what her policies are. She's for transing the prisoners. She's against transing the prisoners. She's for fracking. She's against fracking. She's been to the border, but she hasn't been to the border. She's a dope. So what are we comparing Trump to? You can dislike Trump all you want. Kamala Harris is a good candidate. She's smart. She's hands-on. She's going to take care of business. The border would be wide open right now.
It would be. You know, and Iran still would have all of its nuclear capabilities. And the war in Ukraine, hundreds of billions of dollars going over there. And everything that we are seeing as far as drill, baby, drill. But the border probably is the biggest part of what we're talking about here. Women against men in sports, no problem at all. All the cultural shifts that we've seen under Trump, none of that would have happened. She wouldn't have done anything. She was a great candidate for Democrat power brokers because they can control her the way they controlled Biden. And all she would have to do is go out there, smile, make a speech once in a while, don't really do any interviews, and just let the people behind the scenes run things and rig things. And boy, we dodged a major nuclear Scud missile in terms of a possible Kamala presidency. But now she's running again. And, I mean, she hasn't announced it, but in polls, last one I saw, she was up 15 points on Gavin Newsom. Now, that could be name brand recognition, but Newsom's out there a ton. I'm pretty sure he should have the name brand recognition part down by now. But if the primaries were held today, Kamala's probably your candidate, which for Republicans is the best news ever. And even if it's Newsom, that's not the worst thing in the world either. AOC would be outstanding news. I don't think she's going to run. And then Buttigieg, right, the failed mayor of South Bend, Indiana, who only gets all the attention he does because I guess he's gay. That's basically your starting four right now. Well, might as well use a basketball analogy. Starting five, I guess you got to throw in Jackie Gleason over in Illinois, J.B. Pritzker. I don't know. Josh Shapiro? No. Democratic Party, far left of it, does not like the Jewish community very much, so I'm not sure he has much of a chance. But anyway, that's what we avoided with Kamala. Meanwhile, speaking of Newsom, here he is on Colbert. And again, this is late night television at this point. It is horrifying. Actually, you know what? Let's play this clip first, Kev. Let's go with cut 13. This is Rodney Dangerfield on The Tonight Show, who in a matter of 1 minute tells, I think, 9 jokes just back to back, and they're all awesome. This is what late night used to be, and then we're going to compare it with what it has become. Cut 13 first, go.
Now, I tell you, I'm all right now, but last week I was in rough shape, you know? Now, last week I told my wife I need a home improvement loan. She gave me $1,000 to move out. Now, I tell you, my wife, there's always something, you know? Well, the other day I called her up. I said to her, honey, I've been thinking about the last time we had sex. I'm getting excited. She said, who is this? I tell you, my wife, she never went for me. Well, the first time I called her up, she told me, come on over, there's nobody home. I went over, there was nobody home. My wife, she drives me nuts. Oh, she was afraid of the dark, she saw me naked, now she's afraid of the light. Now, I tell you, that's all right, that's okay. I tell you, actually, I shouldn't tell jokes about my wife. I mean, she's attached to a machine that keeps her alive. The refrigerator. And I tell you, my wife, she can't cook either. My house, we pray after we eat. I bought a pressure cooker. Now I eat off the ceiling.
That's just genius stuff. The great Rodney Dangerfield That's The Tonight Show. That's when 15, 16 million people would tune in per night, NBC, 11:30. Now let's listen to CBS at 11:30, and here's Gavin Newsom. And boy, I mean, Newsom, Rodney, I'm doing the back and forth thing with my hands here, like I'm, tipping scales. I can't quite decide who I'd rather watch late night to get the escapism and the laughter that I seek in these sort of shows. All right, let's play Cut 14. Go.
I fear that we will not have an election in 2028. I really mean that in the core of my soul, unless we wake up to the code red, what's happening in this country, and we wake up soberly to how serious this moment is.
Yeah, that's literally the comparison here. 1981 Rodney Dangerfield versus 2026 Gavin Newsom. Which would you rather go stand out in the cold to go see? All right. Ed Sullivan Theater. What was that, 55th Street over on Broadway to see Colbert? And Gavin Newsom have that kind of conversation, or Rodney Dangerfield? I only played 60 seconds of that. That went on for 5 minutes. And it's incredible. But that's the comparison now at this point. Anyway, this is Joe Concha. This is Concha at Night. We wrap this puppy up in just a moment.
You're a sky full of stars. I'm gonna give you my heart.
This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition.
Joe Concha.
Sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition, sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Here's Joe Concha.
Welcome back, everybody. Here we go. Probably their best song. Came out in 2000 and I'm good at this stuff, Kev. I swear I am. 2003. All right, look it up and then confirm. In the meantime, it is Coldplay Wednesday here on the Joe Concha Night Show. We're playing Coldplay, obviously, because the Coldplay Kiss Cam gal who had an affair with her boss, despite the fact she was the head of HR and he was a CEO, is now doing the media rounds and portraying herself as the victim. Even telling Oprah Winfrey today that she's now broken up with the CEO, the guy she was having the affair with, because he lacked the integrity that she looks for in a man. You know, after she cheated on her husband and was sleeping with the CEO of the company that she worked at, again, despite being the head of HR. I cannot get over the fact that this person will probably be guest hosting The View next week. 50-50 shot at least. Anyway,
2002
fade out.
blocks.
2002. Okay. All right. Off by a year. That's pretty impressive when we're talking 24, 23 years ago. So there we go. Anyway, let's talk about how this is one of my favorite things about Trump. When I would think that reporters would get it by now, that when you ask him a question about military strategy, he's not going to share it. If you say, do you think there should be ground troops, Mr. President, for this war against Iran? Will you take over Karg Island? Like all this stuff. Like, he's not going to tell you. He's not going to tell a reporter what the game plan is. It's got to keep the enemy guessing. And I've seen other presidents do this before. Biden literally will have all of our people out of Afghanistan, all of our troops by September 11th of 2021. Literally put a date on it. So, the enemy can set their clocks to it, just wait it out and then do whatever they want after, or blow up 13 U.S. servicemen at Abbey Gate at Kabul International Airport. Anyway, here's Trump going off on another reporter again. He's almost kind of nice about it in a way, like he felt sorry for him, but this is cut number 9. Go.
To use even a limited ground force to secure whatever nuclear material remains in Iran is part of that threat. Yeah. And secondly, have you made a decision?
You mean to go in and get it?
Yes, sir.
Why would I tell you that?
And secondly,
I can't say to reporters, sir, when you attack Karg Island, Will you occupy, they ask me these questions. And I don't want to be mean, but they're stupid questions. If any president answered those questions, they shouldn't be president.
And secondly, sir, you...
Yeah, he's right about that. If you answer that question and give away the ball game, then you probably shouldn't be the commander-in-chief of our armed forces. The commander of New York, by default, I guess, kind of, is Kathy Hochul. She is still doing this whole pitch to high-income earners to please stay in the Empire State. Please stay in New York. Stop leaving. Stop going to Florida and Tennessee or Texas or these states that have better climates that also, probably more importantly, allow you to keep more of your money because they don't have a state income tax. So her pitch is, well, I'll give you her pitch and I'll give you my thoughts on the other side of this. This is cut number 10. Go.
And being conscious of the fact that I need people who are high net worth to support the generous social programs that we want to have in our state.
You heard that correctly. Now, we have these really generous social programs. So if you could just give us more of your money, our government will spend it wisely and we'll make sure it goes to all these people that we feel we're being generous to because the government runs things in an awesome, awesome way. I have a feeling this just ain't going to work. It's happening by the hundreds of thousands of people leaving New York City. And if you just go there, it just feels different, or you live there for that matter. It's just not the same city that it used to be. I know when I go to Fox, all of Midtown smells like weed. It's really annoying. You say, oh, Joe, lighten up a little bit. I'm sorry. If you're head of tourism of New York City, you don't want this smell permeating throughout every friggin' city block, it feels like. Or people just sleeping on the streets. You're constantly pestered by people. I'd hate to be a panhandler these days because, no one carries cash anymore. I know I don't. I do everything with Apple Pay or a credit card that's in my phone already. No one carries cash unless you're in the mob or something. Who would do that? So, yeah, you're a panhandler asking for cash. One guy asked me, can you go to the ATM then? Sure, yeah, it's 5 blocks away. I offered to buy him a meal because I wanted to test him, to be honest with you. I'm like, yeah, this is a Pret-A manager, whatever you call those things. I'll get you a sandwich. Because I'm not really hungry. Oh, well, what do you need the money for? I'm not really hungry. Anyway, let's move on to what's going on with France as far as the Strait of Hormuz. They will assist us, right? We've saved their ass more times than I can count. They will help clear the strait with their military, along with the U.S., because us NATO folks, we all stick together, right? Here is President Macron doing what the French do best. Cut number 19, go.
We are not a party to the conflict, and therefore France will never take part in operations to reopen or liberate the Strait of Hormuz in the current context.
Great. Okay, so France sitting this one out again. How many times can we save these people before we say, all right, next time you need our help, then we're not going to be part of this conflict either. Anyway, this has been Concha at Night. And what can I say? We're back tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time in New York and on stations around the country. Until then, I have 2 syllables for you. Coldplay. No, I have 2 words for you. Bye-bye. Where I wanted to roam.
Tunnel to Towers Foundation honors the sacrifices of America's heroes. Heroes like U.S. Army Specialist Andy Keith Kingsley. Andy was part of the 82nd Airborne Division. He received various awards and decorations, including a Purple Heart. While deployed, Andy was catastrophically injured in combat. Andy and his family received a mortgage-free smart home from Tunnel to Towers. But many more heroes, like Andy, need your support. Donate $11 a month and amplify your impact by donating your car or land. Go to T2T.org.